We had no idea it was going to last 6 years. We had no idea it's going to continue after 6 years. You had no idea you're going to do 2 shows a week. And if you were an actor, a legitimate playing a personality, how hard would that be? So you got to be who you are. And if you don't think there's something interesting about you, there is. You just don't know what it is yet. Yeah. We all have our own quirks, and you kind of got to play into those. And then the other biggest thing that we say, just stealing it from Cory, is we tell you to be consistent. If you show up for them, they're going to show up for you.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We're back in the booth again with some amazing guests. We got another twofer. There's 3 of us in here today. We got Tanner and Cory from the Farm4Profit podcast. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Should I look into the camera and lean in when I talk?
Please break the fourth wall.
We appreciate the invite.
Yes, we've been trying to get this connected for months, but everyone's so busy, and it's just kind of weird, like, that you guys you're podcasting, like this is your deal, this is your stick, which is really fun. So
which is odd. You can actually do podcasting for a living. That does rhyme with odd.
Yeah.
You said odd.
Yes. I need to know what the other buttons.
I know. I need to know
save
which
those for later. Yeah. But no, really excited to jump into your guys' story. So for people that don't know, Cory and Tanner will talk more about your journey, but you guys run an agriculture podcast and a couple different shows, right? Kind of leading the charge, if you will, on ag podcasting. You guys are based in Slater, Iowa, which is another dinky town nearby.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how you guys converted an old Casey's building into your podcast studio and all the cool stuff that's going on. But just welcome in. And I think a good place to start would just be if you guys can introduce yourselves individually and then tell us a little bit about the podcast, and we can kind of jump in from there. So,
yeah. You want to go first?
I don't know. It's going to make you go first.
I'll go first.
True podcast guest style.
Cory Hillebo grew up Polk City, Iowa. So I'm probably one of the closest towns to Granger here, just across the lake.
I live in Polk City, so yep. And we just had P&M Apparel on this morning. So jokes on you guys if you're listening. Last week I changed shirts because we shoot them in the same day. So
yeah,
surprise.
So grew up on a farm North Polk City by Big Creek. And 2,000 acres of row crop corn and soybeans. And in 2013, we purchased a hog site and wean to finish, and that's what kind of got me back to the farm. Went to Iowa State University, grew up in ag, FFA, 4-H, all that kind of stuff. Played a lot of sports, and always enjoyed the sports side of entertainment. Like when ESPN came out, and then Barstool and things of that nature. So that's kind of tells you a little bit about my background. So I love agriculture and I love sports.
Sure, so, love it. And Tanner, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a farm kid that grew up in Northwest Iowa. Ended up having a lot of loves as kids. Sports was one, finance was another. So went to a business college in Des Moines. Met my lovely wife there.
Where'd you go to college?
AIB, the College of Business.
That was my other choice. They went bankrupt my sophomore year of college.
Yeah, it was fascinating that a business school couldn't run their own business. So I don't know how
That's
good.
also odd.
It's also odd. Is that's your stick?
That's what I'm doing this show.
He needs to get you a longer. You just hit the button yourself. Just slide that over here, would you?
Yeah, right.
Just you can trust us.
Right. I don't trust you with the button.
Okay. Especially when you don't know what the other buttons do yet.
You don't know. Don't hit the red button.
Went to business school, got my degree there, met my wife, and I spent a 15-year career in banking, a little over 15 years. So bounced around from a couple of community banks, but ended up when we started our family, needed to be close to a set of free babysitters. And it was either Northwest Iowa or her family is up by the Ames area. So we relocated to Huxley, been in Huxley for almost 13, 14 years, something like that, for most of our marriage, and have 2 lovely daughters. But started Farm4Profit in 2014. And it's evolved. So it'd be exciting to tell a story about how that gets. And now that's what I do full time. I get to farm for fun with the in-laws and with my parents. And we're a podcast or media company by day. You call it by night, by day?
Yeah. I mean, your full-time hours at both.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
At all. Yeah.
I have 2 full-time jobs. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I remember when I first met you guys, I thought the vision was for you guys to be full-time in the podcast. And I just remember Tanner saying, like, it's going to either take a lot of success with this show or just being like so over banking that I would ever leave. Because you got a really established career in banking to just walk away from it. What do you guys think is like the biggest surprise to you guys personally and individually about the show? Did you guys ever think it would be as big as it is today?
I hate the word influence. usually when it's tied to influencers. But probably the biggest surprise to me is how many people listen and how many people take the advice that we give and put it into motion. I expected it to be more entertainment. Originally started off as a way to boost my career, but ultimately that's probably my biggest surprise is how many people come up to you and say, hey, I did this because I heard it from you guys, or how many companies tell us that, hey, people are buying our product because you mentioned them.
Sure.
Yeah. And I was a very social person before COVID. I mean, I was probably one of those guys that just had too many friends, tried to keep up with a lot. And then COVID hit, and you can imagine how devastating that was for someone like that. You can't go to the bar with your friends. You can't go to these birthday parties and be social. So the podcast was kind of my outlet. I wasn't on the podcast in the beginning, but Tanner and I somehow in there, we became friends, and
He hesitated.
Yeah. So you said it started in 2014, which was a conference, but in 2019 was when the actual podcast started. And in 2020, a year later, was when I actually joined the podcast. And I told him and Dave, our other co-host, that their content is good, but
You never said good.
I said, no, I said it's good content, but it's boring. And I said it needs to be more entertaining. Sure. And so that's where I came in and said, we should have a fun side of this. And
Sure.
I said, and you guys had me on for a show about social media and farming, because I was on social media, not very big, but I always put my farm stuff out there. And we did that. And the next week I said, why don't I just come back, grab a set of beers from the brewery down the street, and we'll kick that outline down the table, and we'll just talk.
Sure.
And that's what we did. And I mean, honestly, we thought we were just all having fun, right? Tanner was helping his career, Dave was helping his real estate business and auction business, and I was just there, getting my social time in. And I think you were probably one of the first paid gigs that we did. We hired you for an award.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, in Huxley.
A virtual award.
A virtual one.
During COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
So at that point was like, could we actually make money doing this? After we saw your bills, we're like, well, we better.
Right.
we
gotta pay for these people. Oh, God. Oh, no.
Turns out guys with cameras are
We
expensive.
don't know how to do any of this.
Right. Well, and it's crazy because, you guys are transplanted into this world of media, having no real formal education in it and kind of have to learn on the fly. But I think that's what really comes to it. Because if you're a media person that's like, I'm going to start an ag podcast knowing nothing about ag, no one's going to listen to that crap, We
find that a bunch. But I mean, it's authenticity, right? That's what people like. We don't need to go to marketing. That's why podcasts are cool. Like, you can certainly go to marketing school, but Ryan, you and I met well before our podcast at Drake University.
Yeah, at an entrepreneurship weekend event or something.
Yeah,
I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so long ago.
And it's all about relationships, right? And authenticity. And I was like, hey, I know this guy he's doing this. I've been following him for a few years. We went to a class together, and that all of a sudden you're back. Now, how are we here now? The journey to get here is crazy.
Sure. Yeah, it's just kind of an interesting way about how this goes. And I'm sure you guys probably saw this too. As the podcast starts to grow, you start being at industry events and people recognize you, and then you see the impact where, I'm sure your numbers have grown even more now with the impact, but it's like, even if with my show when I first started, it's just like, even if there was 10 listeners, it's like I'd have somebody text me hey, I just listened to this interview, great interview, I love the guest, keep doing what you're doing. And it's like, you think early on, who's listening or who's watching, kind of that whole thing. Let's dig into your guys. I guess I should say, before we go back all the way to the origin story, tell me a little bit about the size and scope of the show now. We started it how many years ago now?
Yeah, so the company started in 2014. Podcast started in 2019.
Okay, so since then you started humble beginnings, which we'll get into in a second.
Yeah.
But where's just to give people an idea of the size and scope of the show, how many people are involved, the team, all the stuff that goes into the producing it.
Yep, we're 2 shows a week now that go out on all audio platforms. We're video on Spotify and YouTube, get released twice a week, every Monday, every Thursday. That hits clips that go to all of our social media channels. Our audience is across the world. We've got a listener in every single state. Highly featured right here in the Corn Belt. So if you think about where corn's grown, that's probably 65% of our audience. But ultimately, we've got a team of 10, a combination of full-time and part-time, even if you call Cory's full-time efforts part-time, that gets everything done from audio editing to video editing to outline preparation and scheduling. We've got our own marketing officer. Obviously, we've got 3 co-hosts that will fall into that mix too. But it's evolved even more beyond just hosting a podcast, because now we do a lot of custom content for partners. So we're filming commercials. We're providing that farmer perspective to be able to put advertising together for companies that advertise to farmers. As far as that goes, throw a couple of social media management accounts in there, and voila.
And scope, right? When I came on in 2020, I don't know the exact numbers, but I want to say you guys were between like 100 and 150 downloads
per episode.
per episode.
Sounds right.
Per week.
Which is nuts. And people think that's small viewership, which in the grand scheme it is, but it's like, that's 400 people that would just sit and listen to you guys gab for an hour.
Right.
How cool is that?
I started it originally. We'll go back to that, but I started originally to get customers as a loan portfolio, and I could only really effectively manage 30 to 40 customers. So if I had 100, I only had to convert 30 of them, or 30% of them. So yeah, it's fascinating. I think when we got to 500 listeners, we said, can you imagine sitting in a room and looking out at 500 people while we're talking about this?
Which was like a week or two after I joined.
Right.
By the way, was
Right.
when we got to 500. Like we.
People's views on it, that, like,
Do you got a back patting button?
I don't have a back, but I can get you a back scratcher maybe. But even that, I mean, I did a workshop speech at like the largest, it's like a gym ownership conference in the world. They did in Dallas, this huge conference hall, and I was in a breakout session, something, it's like 50 people, whatever. It's like 300 people show up live, and then they're live streaming it to Brazil, and there's like over 1,000 watching the live stream. There's a translator like translating the Brazilian people that ask me the questions, and I'm
Portuguese.
like, how many people are on the call? Like, over 1,000. I'm like, gulp. I'm like,
Wow.
But then you think like, oh, if your Instagram reel doesn't get 1,500 views, it's like a failure. But I'm like, if you put all those people in a room, and I saw, even just 400 of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the impact you can have on people. I think people just don't get the scope or the size,
Now, how many of them were sleeping?
Maybe. Yeah, they got the machine that moves your mouse. They put a drill and hold the trigger down, and they go to the bathroom.
What would really be cool is if you had the deaf person doing the
sign
Oh,
language.
yeah.
sign language.
Yeah.
And then you could really start messing with them.
Yeah, and then just start saying random words and throwing off people.
Yeah.
That would, if I was a singer and they had a concert, I would totally do that. Like put random lyrics in there that they can't hear.
Yeah.
So I think that helps just understand. So you were at like a couple hundred views. What's your current episode now getting for downloads?
Well, yeah, that's fascinating because we're actually coming out of a really good week right now. The show that we put out last Thursday's already had more than 40,000.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Crazy. So yeah, we started from a couple hundred to now you get, and that's like every episode, and you start rolling it, and then
and that's, like I said, that's in the first. What is today? Today's a Wednesday. That's in the first 6 days. So yeah, it's kind of neat. You see what topics, when you put 104 shows out a year, you're going to have those that are not going to do as well. A boring topic about finance or accounting, it just, not a lot of people care or choose to understand or invest their time into that. And then you grab a show that's timely and has a bubbly personality or someone that's got a social media following, and yeah, it can skyrocket.
Sure. Well, hopefully this episode doesn't flop for me. So
Yeah.
riding on you guys for this one.
Well, does anyone ever turn around the mics? What's your scope at?
What's that?
What's your scope at now?
So when we first started, I had like a couple like minuscule numbers, but for me, I'm really pushing YouTube as my main because it's video based, but also Spotify, as you mentioned. But for YouTube, a good episode for me gets like 400 views, I would say. But again, I'm like, that's 400 people that sit and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I'm on episode, like, this is probably an episode 78. So I'm like a second year. I have a weekly show, second year I'm in. But I was at a point in episode 30 where I about gave up because I'm like, man, this is dragging. There's like no viewership, but just crawling. And I had a buddy of mine from high school that owns a lawn care business that he had texted me and he said, hey, just want to let you know, like, I've binged every one of your episodes. Like, I drive around all day on ride-on mowers with the overhead. And he's like, your interviews are great. He's like, you ask like really good questions. And like, he had some other compliments. But he's like, just keep doing what you're doing. Like, this is a great show.
Yeah.
You know? And that was the one little piece of positive enforcement I needed to like, okay, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Because you just never know. Like, even in that moment, did you guys ever have moments when you first started where you're like, this is stupid, or like work's getting busy or family's getting busy? Should we just hang it up? No one's listening.
Honestly, for me, it's always worked. I've been very fortunate. Right there in the beginning, sure, didn't even know what expectations were. Content was dry. It was more like a lecture being presented in a podcast form. So it always had steady growth. Audience grew, listenership grew, and then Cory came on within the first 10 months and it exploded.
Sure.
We followed that up with a couple other growth opportunities, and we were fortunate enough, there was never a point where it was, this isn't successful. We can't see that it, is falling on deaf ears.
I mean, I think I had the same thing. Like, I don't think I've ever had that thought. Honestly, I think I've more of that thought like when we're on these trade shows, even though we're getting paid really well. It's like, boy, I'm starting to miss a lot of my kids' stuff. But never because of what we're doing isn't getting enough traction or isn't worth it. But so that's what keeps us going. And I think what helped is we just never had expectation. We didn't start the podcast to make money, right? We said that before.
Tanner's like, yeah.
No, he did it to just because you don't get a commission at the bank, right?
Right.
You didn't, right? You just wanted to be a better banker and be perceived as a better banker, so then you could get promotions.
I moved into an area where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the client base, had no portfolio. It was eat what you kill. We want you to go expand this loan portfolio, and I knew my in-laws, and I didn't want to. Hey, father-in-law, can you give me this guy's number? Can you give me this guy's number? So I just wanted to position myself in an area of expertise, or at least an area of I'm connected to the experts.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, and it's interesting how that all works, because I know for me, like when I started this show, one, it was like we had the studio, and I'm like, I've always wanted to have a show and have like a professional place. Let's just do it. The second piece was like I have all these really interesting business conversations all the time that I'm like, this conversation would help someone so much if they heard what's going on. Like we've had conversations off air before, after, when people come in. I've done a 2-hour show and then someone sat with me for another 2 hours and I'm like, I should have just left the mics rolling, because this second conversation is way better.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of that stuff where I'm like, that was my nexus of it. And then the third piece was I wanted to prove to people that podcasting can make a difference in someone's business. So why not be the guinea pig and show it?
Yep.
And
that's what we do now. We still have companies that reach out, or we reach out to, that doubt that it's effective. We're like, try us.
It's that, I think, especially after COVID, I think people crave this like long form medium so much more. You see all this like clippable crap on the internet, and you see the headlines that piss you off about politics or whatever's going on in worldviews. And then it's like, I just want to hear the whole story. Like, where can I hear this entire unedited conversation or interview or whatever? And then you're like, well, the podcast is like one of the few ways you can get that anymore.
Well, there's no more precise metric of where you want to be, right, for advertising. It's absolutely crazy. We've had a lot of partners go, well, we're just going to try our own podcast, right?
Have fun.
Yeah, do it. Like,
what is it? 97% of podcasts fail after episode 3. Is that the stat?
Third episode. Yep.
Can't even get to episode 4. You're in the top 3%. If you publish for a year straight, you're in like the half of a 1%. But
okay, but was that easy? It can't be that easy.
But was your show even like helpful, entertaining, or any like? Right. Yeah, you could publish it, but is it shitty? Like, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if your show is your company's name podcast, then inherently you've lost your authenticity, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Like, maybe it's that it's for your employees or for your really good diehard customers. Like, you can be of value. It could be but if you want to promote your business to get new customers and sell more products or whatever you're trying to do, it's tough. That's I mean, you got to be a dang cool brand,
right?
And perceived as one. And same way on social media, there's a few brands that do it well.
Sure.
But it's extremely hard. If you're just some lawn care company, trying to start your own podcast and do your own social media, it's tough.
Sure. And it's always the question, I'm sure you guys had this too, it's like, why listen? Why? And you always have to ask that question of like, why would someone listen? I'm in a couple of Facebook groups. One of them is like Podcasters Facebook group. And there's so many people that want to start a show, but they're like asking all these questions and overanalyzing things. And I'm like, I'll even comment on there. I'm like, you're never going to do this. Like, you're finding every reason to not do this because it's going to take a lot of work, and you're trying to like figure out how to make money or what to do. And it's like, it's same thing with a YouTube channel. Same thing with any marketing platform. It's like, who are you trying to target? How are you going to help them or give them value? If you can't answer those questions, you probably shouldn't do the show if you don't know your subset or who you're trying to target.
Yeah.
So
then there's one that thinks they can do it, and we've helped several get started. And like you said, they go 3 shows, or they might go a season or whatever. But then eventually life catches up. They don't have the planning like Tanner does, or 3 months ahead like you are, to have that go. Hey, someone died. Now I can't podcast this week. Well, you got to put a show out. If you're not consistent, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really put that into what we're all doing right now, but there's 6 podcasts that are recorded and produced out of our studio. And we help every one of them to that point of we advise everybody to get ahead, whether it's seasonal or vacational or just trying to get your guests lined up. You have to get ahead. I applaud.
You're just having a mental, I'm just not in the bright brain space to be talking to someone today.
Or you get into those interviews, it might be this one for you, or you just don't air it because it went terribly, right?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those.
The guest is so dry. No, and I get that. My advice was always because I used to manage ag podcasts for my production company before I left. So this is kind of what got me into that world. But we did them all over Zoom, and they were just self-serving and not like helpful. But the thing that I learned a lot was the marketing side of like, you can transcribe this into a blog post and put it on your site.
Yep.
You can turn this before AI. So we had a copywriter do it manually, but you have to you could turn it into a newsletter and email it out. And it's like now you can have 4 1-hour conversations in a month, and that's all your marketing strategy is done because we would do everything for you. But I was like, I saw the writing on the wall though with that stuff of like, if you can really be consistent and really have some like X factor. I was thinking like the best, most entertaining podcasts always have something about them that's like the guests are like unreachable people. You've never, how can I hear from somebody that's A-list celebrity or somebody that's never unreachable?
Yep.
Or they have like some kind of shtick where the podcast is like, what is it? Jack Black has a podcast where he interviews celebrities while they hike the Hollywood Hills, and it's hilarious because Jack Black's super out of shape.
Yes.
So he's just like huffing and puffing the entire interview.
Hilarious.
So there's like little like things like that make it interesting. So I always think that it has to have innate value, but also like an X factor,
Yeah. I don't know what our X factor is besides I think legacy ag media was so stuffy and dry for years. And a lot of people probably never heard it if they're not in ag. But like it is literally like your market's being read at noon on an AM station, right? Very dry farm broadcasters. I mean, I like a lot of farm broadcasters, but they just we're never allowed to cuss, never allowed to be edgy, just prim and proper all the time. And I'm like, we're normal people that farm.
Right. Have you ever talked to a real farmer? Like they might swear a little bit, have a couple drinks with you. They're not like this. Like
some of the best conversations are in a shop after hours, at a farmer's place called a safety meeting. Right. You're having some bush lights or whatever, and like that's the best. Like, but it's not ag. That's not what ag media was, and I hated that. That's why I'm like, I need to bring in more Barstool-esque, like Barstool to sports, right? Like that. I need to bring that into ag, and that's what I tried to do. Tanner really hampered me back early on.
The yin and the yang.
Then he let me loose, and then we got our TikTok banned last week. So that, I mean, there is some filters, I guess, that you need
That's
to have.
probably our shtick is the fact that you have 3 very unique personalities as co-hosts. And we do a very good job, in my opinion, of balancing we're not going to overtalk. We can wait our turn to ask our question, but Dave may have a question from left field, and he may ask it 4 times before he finishes his question, where Cory may also have something, but he waits until the end of the show when I'm ready to be done to ask them. And I want to have an organized path in my conversation to make sure we hit the points that I wanted to deliver to the audience. And you take those 3 and we all compromise a little bit to make the show as unique as it is. We don't all get what we want, but we all give the listener what they want.
But I think the playing off each other's personalities makes it the entertaining piece because you could be trying like, hey, we're trying to stick this rigid schedule, and Cory's like, screw that, rips it up, burns it on fire.
Some of the best ones are when Tanner doesn't say much, and he's got this outline that he's trying to do, and he keeps trying to reel it back in, and Dave and I just like, what was the one with that seed, Hoxie seed or whatever, that native seeds or something that you can go out in the ditch and make $1,000 a pound if you pick some of these seeds, like, and sell them.
Wildflowers and grasses and unique.
And Dave and I are just like geeking out, and Tanner's like, this isn't what this show is supposed to be about. But like, it was like 45 minutes of Dave and I just beaming him with questions, because we're both outdoorsmen and, like to hunt and fish and all that kind of stuff. So
and we'll communicate back and forth. We'll have our phones up on the desk and we'll text back and forth. And Dave was like, Tanner, jump in. I'm like, it's not going to do any good. Yeah. It's so far gone right now. Yeah. And it turned out being great.
Sure. Well, and I always have, and this is my little red book. I've always got questions I'll put together and research beforehand. And
See, he has a book. I have a book too.
some of the best interviews I've had, I had all these questions,
I have
and
a
then
phone.
things got derailed. Like I learn about someone's story, and I'm like, then what happened? And then you just kind of go down this whole rabbit hole of interesting stuff. So I think it's always the X factor. I always think too, as I'm interviewing people, I'm always like, what are my listeners thinking?
Sure.
Because I think that's a big piece where people read their question, you say answer, I read next question, and there's never like a back and forth,
I try to do that a lot because I'm the one that fields most of the text messages, phone calls, and emails that come in from our listeners. So I try to gauge what they're asking about or what they wanted more information on to make the outline, to make the preparation.
Sure.
That was probably one of the big moments is when we started taking listener suggestions for guests and for topics. I think that was probably one of our pivotal moments.
You guys don't do like a live, do you guys take calls live too?
No,
Are you
we
like
don't.
a Dave Ramsey show or a news station that takes like, we got road traffic on I-80, here's someone calling in, like, it's backed up like crazy.
We can't control our own hosts when we're live, let alone
You need a beeper button.
listeners.
Just
We do
ready to
have a
beep.
call-in number, though.
Okay.
So some people have called in.
When do you guys broadcast again?
Yeah.
Also,
It's so random.
Actually, there's been a couple of times I'm getting a phone call because they ring to my cell phone while we're doing an interview, and I've never plugged it into the board. I should plug it into the board.
Sure.
We've placed some callers, though, like Randy the farmer, or whatever, which is one of the coolest things. We have access. I mean, you say A-list celebrities. These are not A-list celebrities, in the terms of the real world, but in ag, like there's a lot, like Zach Johnson, the millennial farmer, over 1 million subs on YouTube. I mean, literally was with us when we got banned last week, and we could call him up right now and talk to him.
Sure.
That's kind of cool.
Sure.
Yeah. And doing it for 5 years, almost 6 years, and you do as many interviews as we do, you do have a lot of relationships. And some are repeat guests, right? But a lot of people are still new. So you're building new friendships and relationships every time. Kind of like this, you're going to talk to us for over an hour, and you're going to feel closer to us than when you started the conversation. The guest feels the same way. We're sitting here asking them questions for 45 minutes to an hour, and they feel like they just told you their life story because you did. That's what you wanted to have happen. And now they just feel closer to you and comfortable because you know everything that they wanted to tell you about them.
Sure. No, I totally get it. And I think that's a big piece too that a lot of people don't realize is you're building that network, but people say, oh, networking, whatever. But in the future, you might need to lean on some of those connections or relationships. You need something like Cory said, 6 years after I met him, he's like, hey, don't you know some video stuff? We need some video stuff done. It's like you can connect the dots with other people, or say you want to get back into commercial banking 10 years later, whatever, like you have all these contacts and connections that if you wanted to, you could, or whatever.
Yeah, it's one of the situations where it's very clear. It's not what we know, it's who we know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so going back to the origin story of the show, I guess we should probably spell that out for people. So we kind of jumped over it. Tell me about the idea to even start an ag podcast. You said this was a business thing for you when you first started it.
So the only thing that we didn't have as part of an origin story is we didn't start in a garage. It was close enough to that. The podcast did start in Dave's basement spare bedroom. But even before that, so that was 2019. So the 5 years before that, it was an in-person conference. So I come to the Ames area, jump into an ag lending role that didn't have any ag customers. So I sat here and I went, okay, how can you meet somebody? It's a farmer meeting. Have lunch paid for, invite people to come listen to somebody talk about the commodity markets, come listen to somebody talk about the land market, listen to somebody talk about the equipment market, some type of ag technology, put together a nice 4-hour meeting, host it, free for them to come show up. You hopefully make some new friends and maybe earn new customers. So did that the first year, had about 40, 45 people.
Yeah, I was one of the first attendees.
Okay.
So that's
Cory got roped into your sales shtick, so that's good.
I mean, 2014, it was my first full year back. I came back in 13, middle of 13 as my first year full time back at the farm. And
I mean, I invited hundreds. Yeah. I invited hundreds of people to come, and I came up with that list from recent farm purchases, recent ag building purchases, recent crop subsidy lists, just the whole thing of what I could do to make connections and send out an invite. So I didn't know who he was before he came to that meeting. So we do that, and it goes over really well. So everybody's like, are you going to do this again next year? Sure. Next December, host the second one. Had to move to a seed shed because we had over 100 people show up. Same type of curriculum. We went a little bit longer that time, still a free meal, and did it again the following year. Got even bigger, went to a bigger venue. So it just continued to happen. And ultimately, we ended up at the Ag Information Center with an audience of over 400 people.
So you've seen that in person. You know the impact.
Yeah,
We did. But I wasn't speaking. I made the opening introduction. The whole point of this getting started is I wasn't going to be the expert. I was going to know the experts. So if you needed anything, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to call Tanner because he knows. No, I'm calling Tanner because he knows somebody, and I know that he's vetted them out. It's a good recommendation. So I wanted to base, kind of my network around what my farmers needed, and those were the speakers that I put up on stage.
Sure.
So there's a lot of advertising to get people to come, a lot of connections. Obviously, you do this for 4 years in a row. You start to get more word of mouth. It really kept growing. Well, every year we'd do a survey to find out, did I miss a topic that you wanted to know about? Was the food any good? You can never make anybody happy on a free lunch. But what
For a free meal, I sure have a lot of farmers.
What things could you improve? And we started getting survey results saying, did you record these sessions? Because I'd really like to share this with so-and-so. Or would you be willing to do these meetings more often? Because it was really hard for me to get today off to come do this one-day event. And it just kind of dawned on me, because I was a podcast listener. I was like, well, why don't we take the people off the stage and just have them present into a microphone? So ultimately, it kind of started off more of a lecture style podcast than anything else. So it started in July of 2019, and then COVID hits. So basically, since the podcast has existed, we've never hosted another conference.
He tried. He was ready to ramp it back up in 21 or so, and I kind of talked him out of it. I'm like, boy, man, this is starting to cook here. Like, this is going to be a lot of, like, he was going to lose money to put this conference on. Well, it felt like, right? Because you had to get sponsors. You say it's a free meal, but you had to find someone that was willing to put their name behind it to pay for that meal, to pay for those giveaways, to pay for the the ticket into. I mean, you were going to host it in the Sukup end zone, but it never happened.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of the evolution of how we got to a podcast. And I always say that banking is, at least in the lending side, commercial lending, ag lending, even a little bit of real estate lending on the consumer side, is really a sales job. If you're trying to sell somebody a car as a car salesman, you still have to earn their trust. You still have to provide them with a quality product. In banking, I'm giving you $1. And if you got my dollar or you got Cory's dollar, they look the same. So really the only difference is the level of service I provide you and how much I charge you in interest. So it was a way of how could I raise that level of service, because I didn't want you to worry so much about the interest side.
His rates sucked.
It's not true. It's not true.
I got to get you guys a soundboard for Christmas. This is going to be like, put a big bow on it.
Yes. So you just go that route, and actually the conference almost made me a better salesman than anything else. Just I had to demonstrate value. I had to provide analytics. I had to provide potential ROI, or like I can't think of what commercial it is right now. The big ROAS, man, return on ad spend. Like I had to figure out what the heck that even was. Because like I said, we have no background in media and advertising and that kind of stuff. I'm in a financial degree. So it was kind of neat to see those skills of mine evolve throughout this process. So we get into doing the podcast, no advertisers. Basically, the advertisers is me at the bank that I'm at, Dave Whitaker Marketing Group, advertising for himself as auctioneer and realtor. And we're talking about it. We want you to be excited. We want you to promote. We want to promote ourselves and the connections that we have. And ultimately, the way that Dave and I connected is he was always my real estate expert at these conferences. And he was an auctioneer. Well, auctioneers have microphones, and I needed microphones.
And he can talk really fast. He can do the ads.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Look at you, 15-second ad.
1 minute now, too.
Yes. So it was like a perfect fit of it was going to benefit him. He had things that I needed. I had skills that he needed access to, and kind of that messaging all worked together. So the podcast started in Dave's basement bedroom. Got a little awkward when you invite a CPA to come downstairs into your spare bedroom when you got blankets hanging up on the window to deaden sound and cover light and do whatever you need to do as far as that goes. And Dave was remodeling his real estate office. So we ultimately went from his basement bedroom to recording in Dave's real estate office. Took over his boardroom. Everything we had was in a rolling tool chest. Pack it up. Tear it down every single time that we wanted to record a podcast, which was great.
It's such a pain though. Like setting it up, tearing it down.
Yeah.
That's why we did this room.
Something's constantly not plugged in right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And it takes time man.
Oh yeah, we would kill an hour and a half to 2 hours.
You recorded several shows where you thought it was going through the board and it went through the computer mic sitting in the middle of the table.
See, he's been having good sleep. Why you got to do that to him? He's gonna have nightmares the rest of this week now.
No, we're good.
That's why I've been checking. We're still rolling. We're good.
All of our equipment's on a semi headed to Denver right now, so I don't have anything to worry about on that side of it. But it kind of evolved because Dave was seeing success in his real estate business. So now he had more employees and more team and taking up more space in his office. And we kind of could see the writing on the wall.
Harder to schedule times and all that. Yeah.
It wasn't going to work. And Cory came across a piece of real estate for the studio that we're at. So we ended up buying that, turning it into our dream studio.
Which was an old Casey's gas station you guys turned into a professional podcast studio.
I stopped in because it was the day after Christmas in 22. And I'd always wanted this, and I actually talked to several real estate agents like, hey, I want that Casey's. Like it literally it stopped being a Casey's in early 2000s, like 2000 or 2001, and it looks the same. Like they looked like they just walked out, and it was a limo, and then just some guys a limousine place, single limousine. They put a garage door on the side and washed their car in there, ruined the walls, and then some guy had like a man cave, like had his Harley and snowmobile, and then a lathe and a CNC machine in there, and he was pushing snow after it snowed, and I'm just going to stop in there because all the real estate people were like, it's not going to, he doesn't want to sell it. I just stopped in and talked to the guy. And he's like, actually, I own a couple car washes, got 2 girls at college, and my wife and I want to move to Florida. I had a guy lined up to buy this, but I don't think he's going to come up with the money.
Because he wanted the money by the end of the year.
This is the 26th of December.
Oh my gosh.
And he wanted to close by the end of the year.
You're like, I need to find a banker.
And we're like, crap. Like, and at this time, I think we've sold some ads on the podcast, 22. We're 2 years into me coming on, 2.5 to me. So we've sold some ads, but like nothing like you can buy a property type deal. But we had to make a decision quick.
And that is probably where it hasn't always been who you know. It's also what you know. Well, my background in finance, I knew what needed to happen in order for a piece of real estate to change hands. And I knew that literally we had exactly as many days as the fastest way you could possibly do this. So then it became who I knew. Mm-hmm. He tells me about it. We decide we just have to go with this. We got to do this. So you immediately talk to the attorney that you need. You got to talk to the title opinion folks. You got to talk to those that can update the abstract. And it was go time.
And luckily, you've been successful in banking. I, had a seed business and farming and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of just pooled our funds and
Sure.
made it happen.
So you guys co-own the building then? Correct. And then there's another tenant on one side, right?
Yeah,
so you guys use
2/3 of the building we occupy. 1/3 is occupied by an insurance agent.
Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know that's where we again along this journey we have touched base a couple times on different projects and things. And when I was looking for my space that I'm in now, I was like, you guys are making a podcast studio? Like that's kind of what I want to do. Like how cool is that? And being in Polk City, so it's been cool to see the journey of because I went in when it was bare bones and the CNC machine was there and the safe in the floor that didn't have any cash. And I have one of those back here. I'll just show you. No cash.
That's a good story too.
But yeah, so it's interesting just to see the build out because how did that process go about? Because you guys had to scramble to get the money all the systems to get it purchased, but then it's like, okay, we didn't like premeditate this idea. What was that like for you guys?
It took us 6 months to figure out a floor plan.
Yeah, and who was going to do it, right? We didn't know where to start, right? We both probably had enough of a construction background that we could put up the walls. We could have done a lot of the stuff, but we're probably generaled it ourselves.
Yeah, looking back on it, we should have.
We didn't have the time. We went through a couple contractors, and our contractor was, whatever. We had typical contractor, issues of, and then it wasn't even that; it was their subs. Yeah, the contractor was great. It was just. They had to fire one framing crew because they literally couldn't put windows at the same height off the ground. They couldn't get the overhangs. They were like, cricket to the world.
Right.
And it's just like little simple things,
size of the windows.
Size of the windows. The floor had to be redone twice because someone walked on it too early, a $7,000 epoxy floor. There's footprints everywhere in it. Just little stupid stuff like that.
Footprints where like you sat down on the stool to use the stool and there's footprints. Like,
yeah. We tried to do
we know exactly where they went.
We tried to be the most efficient with it. There was a natural break in that 1/3 where Casey's had added on a kitchen at one time when they started doing pizzas and all that kind of stuff. So that was like, well, that's naturally a space on its own. And then we didn't really add any walls or anything. It was kind of just maybe the one big one where the studio is. Mm-hmm. But we didn't know what we were doing. We just thought we just want a big space where we can come in and hang out. At one point, I thought it was going to be like a man cave, like with a studio. Like we're going to have workout equipment here and a shower and TVs and a pool table and darts.
We clearly work out a lot.
Right. Well, yeah. You went for a run the other day. But anyway, no. And his wife ex-nayed the shower and all that. And she wanted to turn it into like a little event center. You have little birthdays, 30 people, you know, type of deal. And we did a couple of those. And we've since gone, you know, it's kind of nice just to have our own space.
Right.
So
it's nice to know you have guests coming because it forces you to clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
But not like clean up to the level of somebody's going to rent this for a 2-year-old's birthday party.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a market for that, I think. Like my wife and I, our daughter's born in January, and same thing. It's like you're looking for an indoor place.
Yeah.
And we looked in Polk City we had kicked the idea around of doing like a little business for that, but it's like, I don't know. It's always the hard thing because then if it's a rentable space, that is the sole purpose is like, this is for other people to use because you start coexisting in there. It's like Airbnb. If you Airbnb your own personal house out, it's like,
so
let me just put it all away.
We put a bunch of brain space into it, and mainly Tanner and his wife did of how like they made a website and everything, you know, booking and all that. And our very first gig that someone came in to rent the space stood us up.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like there were several emails going back and forth, and we're like, yes. And then we both went there like, you know, like this is our first one, you know. And they never
roll out the red carpet.
They never came. They never came. And at that point, I was like, it just doesn't feel right.
It just took 2 hours of our day.
Yeah. And at that point, we're really, you know, that's through all this process, we've really learned the value of our time. You know, it's crazy. Whether it's spending time with your family or at the farm or making, you know, podcasts, like we don't have that much time. It's our most valuable asset. So we can't be having that. So then we put a golf simulator in.
Sure. I like the golf simulator.
So naturally.
And when we put it in, we're like, oh, we could host a winter league. We could have
Yeah, we haven't done that. But it is the best place to watch March Madness basketball or you know anything. I mean, we have 7 TVs and a golf simulator and a huge bourbon collection. I mean, Casey's right across the street.
You said it was prior to this a man cave. It's pretty much our man cave.
It's a man cave now.
Yeah, full circle.
Yeah, well, and it's cool to see. Like I've been in there since you guys finished it, and it just looks sweet. Like all the rooms and stuff. And I can tell you guys put a lot of time and thought into how you're going to use it because it is. I mean, your output is directly related to the space you use. And
well, the biggest observation we had, at least the frustration that I had, is I told you we were recording in and out of a tool chest. We were also recording in David's office, so we couldn't just leave the equipment up. So it'd be like you and us finishing this interview. And you want to socialize afterwards. But instead, you have to put this microphone away and those cameras away. It's like it's your home. As soon as you start doing dishes in the kitchen, everybody's kind of like, oh, the conversation's done. It's work time. I either need to migrate someplace else or it's time for us to go home.
Yep.
Same thing would happen. Even if I told you, don't leave. I'm just putting the microphones in this tool chest. I want to still talk to you. It didn't matter. It still got uncomfortable. So we wanted a space to where once we were done recording, stop, walk out, and continue the conversation and make it continue to deepen that relationship. Yeah. Make sure that nobody felt awkward.
Sure.
And we'll do multiple recordings in an afternoon, you know, so batch record. So then
Smart strategy. So I like it, Cotton.
Yeah. So then we need a reception area, right? Which was Dave's other people that were sitting there awkwardly with these guests that were there. And, you know, it's like now we have that space. They can, you know, we can text them, hey, there's, you know, beer, water in the fridge. You know, there's a bathroom out there. They can hang around if an interview runs long.
Turn the TV on, watch what you want to watch.
Yeah. We got a window. They can stick around and watch the next interview if they want.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, we do ask that they don't hit balls into the simulator.
Yeah. At that time,
it's
a little loud.
Might hit the glass of ricochet or something and shatter it. That'll be a fun one.
Right.
But I think it's interesting because at this point, when you guys bought the building, like you said, you guys maybe run a few ads, maybe made a couple bucks from this. At what point did you realize like we have to drastically change our business strategy, our approach? Because like now you guys have overhead and you have a lot of like costs that are coming with this building and the cost for the build out and everything and just the upkeep of it.
Yeah, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say it was like before when we made a little money, it was great. You know, that's cool. And I would just tell Tanner, hey, do you want paid for that? It's like, no, just keep it. We'll spend it someday, you know, on something. And that went to the studio a little bit. But the biggest thing was we created this monster that, like, it has to be fed. If you don't feed it, like, it's done, right? And then you're in financial ruin.
Sure.
Yeah. Again, the finance background of mine, I also had a lawn care landscaping business as a kid and mowed a lot of foreclosure houses when I first started in banking. It always had been a part of me. And I went to business school, so I had that degree. It kind of, once we realized we had something we could monetize, it's always been a business. Now that level of what type of business and what that business can achieve has changed. And the building was just another piece. I was paying Dave rent. Like that was something that I wanted to do to show Dave that I valued utilizing his boardroom and taking up space away from his team. So we were already paying rent as a podcast. That was already an expense. It just switched to who that check was written to. And I don't know how else to frame that up, that it's just kind of continued to evolve. I mean, we've got ebbs and flows. We've got customers that take 6-7 months to pay.
Yeah.
We've got some that prepay. So it's kind of nice to try and manage cash flow. But, when I stopped being a banker, now it's a model of how can we make this sustainable? Can we make this to where it's a living wage for not only myself, but for the entire team? And I never want anybody to ever leave my team, ever. Whether it was a loan assistant back in the day or it's somebody on our team now, because they could get offered more money somewhere else. If it's not the right job for them, if they're not happy, that's fine, because I want them to do things that they enjoy doing. I want to compensate fairly or above fairly because they deserve it. They put this much work into it. I'd rather sacrifice what I'm making in order for that to happen. So it's probably been a conscious effort that way more than anything else.
Sure. Well, and I think the product offerings too, for people that understand like how this works, like you guys can sell sponsorships on the show. You probably have like co-branding stuff. Like Cory had said, doing some ads or some funny things.
Yeah.
What have been some of the partners you guys have worked with, just so people understand like the level of names that you guys have worked with in the last couple of years?
Yeah. Are we wearing anything today?
Suka, I said that once. Suka Manufacturing was one of our first supporters.
We should have had our racing suit on with all the brands.
Yeah. They're a local company out of Sheffield, Iowa. We were just up there this morning. They're taking all of our equipment down to Commodity Classic for us, but they were probably one of the first, not the first, but one of the first.
It was one of the first large ones. Yeah.
And one of the first that actually brought us on site. They took us down to National Farm Machinery Show and was really looking at trying to, they were in the legacy media game. They still are, but they were just trying to spice up advertising, get with the times. John Deere is still a premier sponsor. One of our, weren't one of the first because they were one of the hardest to get with.
Yeah.
Sure.
It took a 3 or 4 month vetting period through
extremely loyal
third party, not even John Deere, third party marketing agency. That was just to get in the door.
They probably had some sucker intern had to listen to every one of your damn episodes to make sure it was
They did. They listened very, very thoroughly.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's like PsyOps type stuff. Like we had Ag with Emma, who was helping us, who was another big social media name, and she was trying to get in with John Deere. And so our first Commodity Classic down in Orlando, we fly in down there and we meet up with Ag with Emma, and our marketing guy goes up to her and goes, Emma, we want to work with you, but this post from 2014 and this post on Facebook from 2017, that needs to go away.
Dang.
Dig deep type stuff.
Got Sherlock Holmes in the DMs trying to figure out where all your stuff's at.
It was, that was kind of eye-opening for us. So I'm like, well, I don't know if they dug that deep on us. They couldn't have. They really would have, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to get back to your question, because that's what I always do, is try to re-rang Cory back in. But we worked with over 60 different companies last year, from all different levels. We've got partnerships that will be single episode partnerships all the way up to year-long or multi-year contracts. Like I said, John Deere's probably the most recognizable. We had a stint with Busch Light. That'd probably be another recognizable one. Locally here in the central Iowa area, Ag Leader out of Ames is a partner of ours. We work with Ag Explorer out of central Missouri this year. I was just trying to think. Corteva would probably be another big ag company that they would recognize. We're looking for a pickup truck sponsor. We're looking for an energy drink sponsor. We're looking for
there you go.
What I don't like is the metric of when you say 60 companies, because it makes it sound, in the beginning, I never wanted to work with anybody because I wanted to be so authentic that I could say what I wanted. But then quickly you see how expensive it is. A lot of people would just lose their mind if they knew how much it costs us to put out a show now.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's a necessary, but we will only work with 3 or 4 companies on one episode because we just don't want the whole episode to be ads. And that's why we get creative, right? We have social media, we have our YouTube, we have on-site appearances at so many different ways that we can work with you.
Yeah, like one of the partners, for example, is the Propane Energy and Research Council. And yeah, they're a billable partner. We made one social media post for them at National Farm Machinery Show. It's got a hashtag ad right in the beginning of it. It's very clear that they're a partner, but that's the extent of it. It could be as little as that to as big as a multi-year agreement.
Sure. Well, even with my show this year, I started experimenting with sponsors, as people that are listening know. Just to do a couple of them, just because I initially just put it out to my client base and just people that I thought would be good sponsors. They're a local, like you said, they're a local business that is more of it applies to the general public or business related services. And there was like 3 or 4 right away. They're like, oh yeah, like let's do like a 6 episode deal or 5 episode deal. And I was like, cool. Like for me, I needed to justify the amount of time I put in. Like last year, I wanted to say, this is before AI tools that edit, like my multicam that switches the camera back to whoever talks to. I used to manually edit them all myself. It was like at least 3 hours per episode plus like an hour and a half of each recording is 50 episodes. So I was like, I committed like over 200 hours last year to just editing the show for free because I just believe in so much of like, again, it's not for the faint of heart. Like people that just think, oh, I can snap my fingers and do it. Or I listen to a bro podcast where they just talk about all the shit they care about. And it's like, as a consumer, you just think it's so much easier than it is, but you don't understand. Like you said, the expense, the time, whether you're paying dollars or time, you're paying something,
As soon as you add video, the time quadruples.
Yeah.
The business behind it is this is the easy part, right? And once Tanner used to do all the editing for the audio, and he would be up, you'd go to bed at 9 o'clock, because I know I'd text you and, he'd be up till midnight editing shows. And it was so hard to get him to give that up to somebody else. But once you did, it was so freeing because now like all of our energy could be spent on the creative.
Right.
And yeah, that was probably a pretty big, he were trying to pay us like, when we were trying to figure out an ad, like what should we charge for an ad? He had this spreadsheet. That was
as a banker would
by hours. Like how many hours did he have into editing that show and talking emails?
From how much time did it take to line up the guest? What did it take to prepare the outline? The time it took to record the episode, what it would take for me to edit, and then get it into the publishing system. And I'm just sitting here like, no, dude, that's not worth. Like he's like, if I could make $75 an hour, but if they negotiate back down, even if I make $30 an hour, that's like what I'm making at the bank or whatever. It's like I'm like no, that is like you don't understand what these people are paying for that kind of traction on a billboard. Or
from a marketer's perspective, I'm like 20,000 eyeballs in my niche. Like if I'm an ag person and this is 20,000 farmers or ag people, what would they pay? Like you said, what would they pay for that direct access and on another medium? Let alone for an hour of their dedicated time,
Right.
What is the best way to sell something? It's usually by referral, word of mouth. This is just the digital version of that.
Right.
If we vouch for a product or someone like you, an interview on our podcast says that you've utilized this service or this product and you saw results, that's another version of word of mouth. But instead of you telling one person or spending a year telling 65 people, you just told 65,000.
Sure. Well, it's an interesting thing because you talk about the social aspect of it, Cory, and it's like how many people go and screw off for 3 hours on a Friday afternoon every week with their friends. We're like, you guys can do that, but you made a living off it now. Like it's just kind of wild, like how things have changed. When it goes from being a hobby to a business, have you guys noticed any like pros or cons with that? Of now that you guys do this for money, you guys have this building, you're doing all the things. Has it taken some of the passion or enjoyment out of it for you guys?
So I'll start first. I will say that when we first started our big foray into ads, we gave up the month of December one year to a company to kind of do 4 shows in a row to feature 4 unique parts of their business, and we saw our listenership decline. So we've never prioritized the money making. We know what our value is and we can sell our value really well. We've come across how to demonstrate that. I mean, the best thing about podcasting is you have analytics. You know where the listeners are, when they listen, age, gender, most of the time, location. And that data is extremely valuable, especially when you're comparing it to a radio show or a print magazine or something in legacy media.
Or they cannot track.
They have no
anything.
idea.
And they say, we get this. You don't know anything about it.
Somebody sent a picture of getting 3 of the same magazine, and he said he didn't open a single one, put them in the trash can.
Yeah.
Okay. You just mailed out 3 and you got 0 views?
Viewership's up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, our subscriptions are up at 70,000.
Correct.
Yeah,
I never even paid for the subscription. Just mail it to me
you just
for
give
free.
it to me. Like signed up on some list at some farm show, and you just mail it to me for free, and it's an expensive magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a hard sale. It's probably harder to communicate the value because it's new to most companies. But once you're in, they don't let you go because you're gonna produce. As long as you have a fair compensation where we've kind of found that level. But ultimately for me, it's not, how do I say this? I'm firmly a believer in the journey because it's been a wild one since we've gotten here, and thankfully it's not been without downs. So we can follow the successes, we can see what hurt us, we can continue to push things through. So for me, it's still fun because I still love winning. Whether it's winning a guest to say yes on a podcast, or it's winning a new sponsor, or it's winning that somebody's voice of approval saying that they love the show and all these things, like those things still make it worth it to me. So it's never not gotten to where it has been enjoyable. Besides, there's down days, but if you can continue to outweigh
There's some PR type stuff. Yeah, I mean, the bigger you get, the bigger the target is on your back. And, like last week getting our TikTok account banned, Tanner literally called me at 6 a.m.
Can we say the F word?
We hadn't been to sleep for that long, 3 or 4 hours, and because we messed up. And immediately I think of my mind goes to something terrible. And he's like, our TikTok got banned. I'm like, oh, geez, man. Like, we thought TikTok was going to be gone a month ago. Like,
Sure.
That's not that big of a deal. Yeah, we lost 100-some thousand followers. Big whoop. Followers are a vanity metric anymore. Right? It's all about views.
Yeah.
As long as we're entertaining, we'll be fine. And I said, we'll just spin this into like a PR stunt, right? Like we'll go on a media blitz. This is part of our media blitz, even though it was planned a month ahead of time.
Sure. Sorry, this episode's going out in like 3 months.
Yeah.
It'll be way after the fact.
Yeah, after this show's done, we're actually gonna like slip you $100 bill.
We'll put it in next week. It'll be fine.
Yeah, but those are the down days. But we turned it into a positive. My passion's still. I love winning. Like Tanner said, it's part of the journey. It's always we're visionaries and like we're not just thinking about the next podcast. We are, but we're also thinking about what could we do? Could we get into a different business in ag, or we're very entrepreneurial mindset. So that's fun chasing that. I've kept farming, right? That's probably the hardest thing is I have this internal battle of my dad's aging out, my brother's back on the farm, but my time is needed more on the farm and my time is needed more on the podcast. Where do I go? And I just do them both right now.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, and I think, and that's a piece, I have 2 questions with that. First one would be, do you guys feel like you had that identity crisis when you both decided I'm going to commit my time, like with Cory, he's splitting time, but in your case, like leaving the bank? Because I remember like there was a distinct conversation I had with you where it's like, it's going to take a like earth-shattering amount of money or effort or some things like passion. Something's gonna have to push me away from this banking thing because, like you said, you spent 4 years trying to build this new portfolio in this new town in this new area. Mm-hmm. What was kind of the thing like in terms of the identity crisis with both of you guys? Did you guys have that when you decided we're doing this podcast like and we're putting a lot more effort into it?
You don't know. I'll go with mine. Honestly, in the beginning, it didn't take that much of my time. It was my after hours, my time that I said was my safety meeting of beers in the shop afterwards. It just turned into that. But then when we started really doing it like, hey, I got to take an afternoon off to do this, that was tough. But what fueled me before money ever came into it, because I'm still not getting rich. It's good money. It's definitely a good side gig. Was there were so many people like ag's weird, ag's odd. Right?
There you go.
Ag's odd. We're this small community, but we hate I shouldn't throw a blanket statement, but a lot of people hate the success of other people if they deviate from their path, like the struggle of ag. You should be struggling. You shouldn't have a new truck. You should be working sun up to sundown and then some, you know. But if someone gets smart and goes and finds, an entrepreneurial path or whatever, or a different path to success, and then maybe still farms, then they hate that. Sure. It's just an odd.
It's kind of the blue collar trend on, you see those TikTok videos of like, you work 12 hours a day, brother. That's a part-time job. What are you talking about? Like, I got to eat with my mud all over my head.
That whole I worked harder than you, I got up earlier than you, that, like, I was just like, has never sat well with me. Like, I'm not afraid of hard work. Grew up throwing hay, and I still freaking chore pigs, which, it's like, no, I'm not afraid of it. But man, I'm always striving to do the next best thing because it's all for my, like, I want to leave it better for my kids and my family, all that. Like, and we're not even going to get into the farming side of things of, land, how much land prices are and how town's growing and all that. It's crazy out there.
Sure. Well, I think it's an interesting thing because people want to. There's a guy, Hub's Life. Have you guys heard of him on TikTok? He's really popular. Day in the life video. He's did a day in the life video every day for the last 2 years. Corporate 9-to-5er, HR manager for a Fortune 500. He just records his day, like get up, make his breakfast, go to work, drive, whatever, and it's just the monotony of his 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Mind you, now he has like 3 million followers on TikTok. He quit his job because he doesn't have, like, he makes enough money from TikTok. He doesn't have to work anymore. And the amount of like hatred and just vile, like people are like pissed that he like quit the job. And I'm like, yeah, but you watching him do the job made it so he could quit the job. And now people are like, you're not relatable and likable and I don't like you anymore. And it's just like, oh, God, it's kind of blowing up in his face. So,
I mean, if I wanted to go full-time podcast, I probably could. We'd have to blow it up a little bit more, now. But I think me staying on the farm brings me value. It brings value to the podcast. Like, I wouldn't be able to talk about someone's input prices or their, their rent that year or this hybrid or that hybrid, or agronomy, like, type stuff. So I feel like I have to stay relevant in that aspect, or else then I am just a talking head.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say I probably still have an identity crisis. Like
Who am I? It's like
it's so true because am I the right CEO for Farm4Profit? There was a chance 2.5 months ago that there was an extremely eligible candidate that was not happy where they were currently at their employment, and they really were looking to get into that C-suite type position. And it could have been a great fit for Farm4Profit to where maybe I stepped aside from the CEO management of the business and focused more on the talent and production side and maybe on the sales, supplemental. It's cool as you build a company, you kind of have to have a little bit of what is the perspective, what's around you. And I could be the CEO forever. That's fine. There may be a day to where that's not the best decision because we're self-taught on all of this. And there could be somebody that has a skill set, has connections, has experience that would bring extreme value to the team. And if I stepped aside into a host-only role or a client manager type relationship instead of doing it all. So I probably have that identity crisis. I will say I don't say I have the more time now to go to the farm, but I can control when I go to the farm more now than I used to. And that's provided more validity for me in the messaging that we're giving, whether it's the aspect of how seasonal is working, the weather's working, what we're seeing as far as crop yields. And it really does help, I feel like, in perspective. So I got into banking because I grew up as a farm kid and saw my parents struggle, and that was going to be a stable source for me. I ended up enjoying that job. It wasn't like that was my sole identity. I don't know what my identity is. I've never been that person who's got up in the morning and said, you know what? I am here. We've interviewed a couple of these people that are just so passionate. Like I think of Andy Cajun Junkin. Like his passion about making sure farm succession happens smoothly and that parents talk to their kids and kids talk to their dads. Like he wakes up and that is his focus. It's Dave Whitaker, our co-host, Whitaker Marketing Group. He wakes up and he is going to sell land and he's going to do it the best way possible. I've just never been that person that's had a laser focus on this. I kind of like doing a lot of things.
Sure. It makes sense though, like and being mature enough to be like, I don't have to be the boss. Like you said, like if there's a better person that's going to manage the operation.
If they would have joined the team, that would have been so cool. Like I would have gladly have stepped to the side and it would have been radical. Because even like Cory said, when I handed off the audio editing, that was my baby. I knew I wanted to cut these.
Tough. And now you're like, why the hell did I do this for so many years?
Oh my God.
Right.
The stress.
I mean, part of our success, I think, is also our team too. Like a lot of people that have a podcast are usually pretty creative, right? You have a podcast and you take photos and videos for people. You're a creative guy. To have a lot of the creative people don't have the business mindset, which I'm assuming you do because you were in the entrepreneurial class and
I'm the one black sheep of the creative industry that's like I'm a business person. I'm just competent.
So if you constantly do the things that stress you out, even if you're good at it, but it stresses you out, eventually it's not a sustainable, path. Tanner had the business side, and I can't sit in an office for that long. I can, If I sit in there all day long, I should have been done in 2 hours, but I'm just like constantly procrastinating or slow at what I do. But B, it just stresses me out. It just brings me so much down. If I don't have to do that, if I don't have to do the business side of things, or if I can just hop on calls and don't have to do the spreadsheets, like, boy, our product is so much better. Our team is so much better because now we're focusing on what we do best.
Right.
The creative.
Right butts in the right seats and figuring that out.
Yeah.
I know for us too, because we brought on a part-time editor, and that's been like, I used to spend 20 to 30 hours a week editing. Now it's like I don't have to do maybe 5-10 hours if I want to. It's like the amount of time, like you said, to do what needs to be done, or go do sales efforts, or produce more content, or whatever you need to do. Like, it gives you so much more freedom there. Yeah. Before we jump in the lightning round, I got to hear about this TikTok ban, though. So you guys told me you just got banned on TikTok the other day, and you had over 100,000 followers. Your account's gone. Tell me the story. What happened?
Well, we knew that Zach Johnson, the millennial farmer, and Randy, the master pipe layer, who installs drainage tile, right? So he lays pipe. Uh-huh. They were coming. They were coming to town. We had actually just spent the week before that at National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville with Zach on the John Deere stage. And so Zach
had a great time.
Zach's a great guy. There's a lot of people in the content creators circle, especially in ag, and most are good, but Zach is one of the good ones. And he's probably one of the best, I mean, as far as when it comes to metrics as well.
Sure.
So they're coming to town. Randy had bought some stuff on an auction that I'd picked up for him. So they both had, and Zach was coming for another conference in Des Moines, and they both had an excuse to come in the night before, and they're like, hey, let's record a podcast. Well, they had a podcast called Off the Husk. And every time we're somewhere with Zach, people are like, when is Off the Husk coming back?
Yeah, because they haven't put out a show for 2 years.
No. But what happened would they would sit down on a Friday night with their wives and a guest or whatever, and they would just get drunk. Like that was, and there was an unsustainable, thing. So they just quit doing it.
We're doing 5 episodes today.
Yeah, it's like, Saturdays always sucked.
Yeah.
They do it Friday night, and they'd just be so hungover, and they have to go someplace.
Yeah,
they
kids
just waste
getting
a
into
Saturday.
Sports and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, we just can't be terrible every weekend, So they just quit, and they just don't do it anymore. And we're just like, hey, why don't we bring Off the Husk back for one time only, whatever. Mm-hmm. We're all here. We got this bourbon collection. We invited some friends over too, and we were watching the USA Canada hockey game.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And both of those guys are into hockey, and I enjoy some playoff hockey type stuff.
It was a crazy game too. If you're for a non-hockey player or a fan, like watching, like it's entertaining stuff.
So where it all probably went wrong was we didn't start the podcast until the third. Was it the third?
Third period.
Yeah. So we had 2 periods of having some drinks, and hanging out. And we're like, hey, we should probably turn these mics on. Meanwhile, Zach's wife, the previous week, had sent a picture to Tanner of a gag gift.
Have you ever seen those social media gags to where like professional athletes are sitting there signing autographs, and then all of a sudden they slip in like the competitor's jersey, and you get the reaction out of the athlete, or signing autograph pictures of them, and then you slip in like their pimple-faced high school picture, and you get the Raz. We set that up with a couple of ag influencers, creators down at this farm show. And so in order to do that, I had to text his wife to get an embarrassing picture of him to slide in with, here's your headshot, here's your Facebook profile picture, here's another one of you racing, and then the fourth picture is this embarrassing one.
Now, have you seen the movie Borat?
Yes.
So the mankini that he wears?
The lime green one?
Yes. So that exact one, Zach Johnson is in this picture on a cruise ship, waving to another cruise. So it's a picture from the backside.
Nice. So full blown G-string butt cheeks out.
Yeah. And we bring that out, and he's probably, I don't know, half a bottle into some rum at the time, and he just starts putting it on camera. I mean, we're recording on all our cameras, but then I just go live on my phone on the Farm4Profit TikTok account and just put it on Zach and Randy, and he just keeps putting it up, putting it up there. And 3 hours in, we finally got banned from it. And I'm sure there was some other things said too, but it was just kind of funny, that was our third strike. We didn't realize we had 2 strikes before that,
It's such a finicky, there's like no customer service avenues. You can barely, you can appeal it, but ultimately, he wasn't showing anything that wasn't private, right? You can walk around in the public with that. And if you can do that, it shouldn't be an issue, but it doesn't matter. When you have so many thousands of people watching and someone chooses to report it, or multiple do,
Right.
that's what you get.
Or AI reports it, or whatever. I don't know what watches those things, but I think probably what got it was he was saying he was going to sign it and auction it off for charity. So sell it, right? And I think we're up to like 6 cases of beer someone offered for it. But yeah.
Do you guys, I mean, that's obviously a blow to the business in terms of reach, but you guys don't seem super bummed about it. If I had 100,000 followers on TikTok and they went away, I'd be like, oh crap.
Well, Cory's mentioned it to begin with, and he's still helping convince me. I mean, we immediately started a backup account because we're still appealing it. We may still get it back. We're going to work and do whatever we can to get it back. But if not, we're going to have this backup account if something ever happens in the future. Well, now it's up to 11,000 already. And we've been a week.
In one weekend, yeah.
Sure. Well, and you guys have all the clips that your team's been working on. Like you can just repost things from years ago.
Years of content. We've got, like I said, 104 interviews a year. We've got other people in social media that we could utilize as an influencer. Hey, go follow this account. That normally, if you're an ad company, you have to pay for that advertising. And we've got the relationship that's allowed us to do that. So that's one thing, but then also we're so diversified. We're on every single platform. Sure, TikTok had 100,000, but we had over 500,000 total followers across the rest of our platforms. And then the comment that Cory made is followers are really just vanity. You have to have followers to be able to do things and get your content into the algorithm, but a good clip's going to do well no matter how many followers you have.
I mean, you can start up an account and have no profile picture, and if the clip that you put out is amazing, it'll have 1 million views, which is weird to me, like, because I don't want to watch something that someone, you don't even know who that person is.
Sure. Well, and so many platforms are trying to kind of rip the For You page feature from TikTok and put it in their own platforms. Like I know we had Rental Cash Flow on. His name's Matt Kruger. Then he does a TikTok account called Rental Cash Flow. It's like 250,000 followers on his account. I was telling him, like, dude, you got to repurpose your stuff on every other platform. Like, you would be remiss not to do it. Like put it on Reels. Put it like there's AI repurposing software. You can have it where if it's posted on TikTok, it automatically rips it, puts it on all the other platforms. And he started doing that with YouTube. And in 30 days, he went from like 15 subscribers to like 17,000 because he just started every day would post all his best stuff. And you, again, as long as you keep that, don't delete the clips or only ever edit them and post them from a native app, like you'll always have it. Like you always have that ammo. So
yeah, we even go back and recycle clips from the past. Episodes that perform really well, you can put those up on all of our platforms. I mean, we've actually got contracts with partners to where we have them pay for us to repost their clip from a year ago. We didn't make any new content. We're recycling content they had. It's been a year ago. It still worked.
Ag's very seasonal.
Sure.
This fertilized product that only works in the spring or whatever,
Yeah. Well, and right now, have you guys experimented with the trial reels? Have you on Instagram? Have you guys heard about that at all?
No.
It's a new feature. When you go to post a reel, you can flip on a switch that says trial reel, and it will post it to new people over the course of like 3 days and test it and see what works. And there's been people that have been kind of growth hacking their accounts because they'll do that with like their best stuff. They'll repost the best clip that already did super well to their current audience. Right. And they'll do the trial reels and they'll just schedule out or have a bunch of them go. And they don't even go to your current followers. It's like just new people see it. And I've had a couple people that have been doing that with their business accounts that have just been like kicking complete ass with it. So
that's cool.
New thing to try. I know you mentioned you have a social media manager person, like mention that. That's a really good feature just to try and just see what's working. So
it's called trial reels.
Yeah, but just on Instagram when you go to upload it. So, okay, natural break here. We can jump into your guys' lightning round. We don't have a sound word for that.
Where's the button for that?
Sorry. Wow. Hey. Usually I don't use the soundtrack board. We'll have to like weave this into here. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Evan will have a fun one editing this one. So okay. So.
We feel bad for you, Evan.
Sorry, Evan. Yeah, sorry, Evan.
Which camera do I look into?
There you go. Whichever
camera
one.
Camera 2. Camera 3. Camera 1.
I feel bad because camera 2, Cory keeps going in and out of.
Oh, it's all right. They don't look at me half the time. You guys are the guests of honor. So
no, this one here.
Oh, that's camera A. A cam.
A cam.
Yep. A cam, B cam, C cam. Yep.
Since that makes sense.
Yeah.
You went middle,
They're
outside,
all
outside.
Because A shows all. B cam shows the B, and then C cam shows the C.
But that one has gotten.
We could get like a cool. We could get a cool like worm's eye view. We should get a top mounted camera.
No dice. Actually, my daughters really love right now looking into our Ring doorbell, like getting really close to it and making their nose huge or making their eyeball fish-eyed. I mean, That's kind of what I feel like that would
We could
look
mount a GoPro to the mic,
Oh,
the
there you go.
Cory cam, and it just nose hairs. That's all you see. I could love it. Okay. So we're going to go rapid fire on some of these questions. Some of them are ag, some of them are not. We'll just kind of have fun with it. So first thing we're going to do is a you go, I go on beer brands.
You go, I go.
So I'll say Budweiser, and you would say a beer brand,
Heineken.
and you would say,
Busch Light.
and I'd say Coors.
This is like a drinking game in college, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leinenkugels.
Oh shit. Coors Light.
I already said Coors. So that's fine.
Miller Light.
So
Sorry.
we'll just go between you two,
Yeah.
though.
Okay.
So whenever,
between the both of
we'll
us.
keep going. So you just go Coors Light, and then
Oh, so I got to keep going.
you're gonna keep going.
Schlitz.
Spotted Cow.
Paps.
You said Leinenkugels, right?
Yeah.
Guinness.
Yingling.
So can I go like Yingling Dark?
No, we'll keep it more general. This will take 20 minutes if we go on the
Corona.
So, is it Sapporo? Sapporo? The Japanese one?
Modesto.
Oh, you're in Modelo.
Modelo. Yeah, that's what it. You get it.
Think your like nastiest bottom shelf shit that they give it away for free.
Yeah, I was going to say
Or you already said Schlitz. So
Natty Light,
there you go.
Dos Equis.
Old Milwaukee.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
I already said
said
Pabst.
that.
Oh God dang it! See,
That
I,
was
I,
good.
see,
memory
I don't
is-
listen. See, I'm a terrible
See, when
listener.
I'm not
It's like a
regurgitating,
steel trap.
when I'm not regurgitating, I can remember. But
See,
when I'm
we need to
doing
have
it,
it like put it up on a
Ding,
board.
ding,
Yeah.
You know,
ding.
that was good though. You guys went like 15, 20
yeah, but those
brands.
are beers.
Oh, we
That's pretty
drink a
easy.
lot.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the one I think of is Red Dog.
Oh,
The nasty hair of the Red Dog. Somebody gave it to me in college once. Mind you, I was already like 12 beers in, and they're like, "You should try some of my Red Dog." He had a Red Dog T-shirt on, and he's drinking this, and he's like,
man.
"It's a finishing beer." I'm like, "What's that supposed to mean?" And I take a drink. I'm like, "Oh god."
It's over.
Like dog piss would have tasted
Yeah.
better.
I was going to go Bud Select was going to be my next one.
Oh, there you go. There you
Those
go.
cans. That was kind of fun. Our Busch Light sponsorship. We started mixing all kinds of things. Like you can only talk about a light beer so much, and the campaign had some length to it. So we started mixing stuff with Busch Light to just spice things up. You know, orange juice was pretty easy, and then we went with like cranberry juice, and we're okay.
remember Bud Light Platinum?
I do.
Is that still a thing?
They're in my garage right now.
Really?
Love Bud Light Platinum.
Really?
Because it's twice the alcohol of a normal beer.
Oh, that was
So
the
if I'm-
platinum part.
So if I'm trying to catch up with my buddies in college, I would always stop by the gas station, get a 6-pack of Bud Platinum because I'm like, okay, if I can drink 2 of these, it's four beers in like 10 minutes. But I'm like caught up, like I'm ready to go.
The
I
problem
just like it
is if you
smooth,
just
though.
drink those and you're a normal beer drinker, the next day you're like, what the heck happened?
Right. That's an IPA.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these IPAs get nice and potent.
Yeah.
But we went from doing the easy stuff to like he always likes putting a monster in it, and you call it a Yeti on the mountain.
It's a Yeti because it's a monster on a
Oh,
mountain
yeah,
in
that's what
Busch
it was.
Light. Yeah,
Nice.
a white monster into Busch Light.
Yeah, and then we got a little crazier. We did hot sauce and tomato juice. Those are still kind of normal.
Chocolate milk.
Sure.
Ice cream.
The milk would probably make me go. "Bleh."
It's actually really
was so
good.
good.
It's stupid.
Have you guys ever had a stripper gone naked?
No.
I feel like that's a trick question.
It's not. It's
Isn't that their job?
Keystone.
To go naked?
It's Keystone Light. It's Country Time lemonade mix and Tito's vodka.
Oh.
Isn't that a pink squirrel?
No, it's the Country Time lemonade is yellow, so
I was gonna say you could do a pink lemonade.
it looks like piss. Is what my buddy made one of those in a gallon jug, and he dressed up as Bear Grylls for Halloween. So he wrote piss with Sharpie on his gallon jug, and he was drinking piss all night.
Ah, that's funny.
He's like, "I'll need some mud on my face," so he went out in the mud and rubbed it on his face.
Jeez.
So no, that's cool though. I think, and it's interesting because you kind of start thinking creatively, like, what else could we do? What else could we do? Like for ideas.
Huh.
Love it. Okay, next question. You guys mentioned you travel for shows. What's the furthest place you guys have traveled for Farm4Profit before?
Tulare, California.
Okay. Nothing international?
No, working on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to go to Germany.
Yep, Agritechnica in Hanover, Germany.
Yep, I was going to say Germany's a huge ag scene there. That could be a fun one. Maybe you guys can get some bush light on the plane. We'll
Yeah. And we're also looking at going to Brazil at some point. We got an open invite to come down there.
Yeah.
Well, we had the Brazilian twins on the show. Maybe I can get you guys a contact down there. They might know somebody.
We have one that actually does ag tours in Brazil. It's just finding the time to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You guys mentioned sometimes you'll turn down sponsors if they're not the right fit for you guys. What's the most amount of money you guys have turned down from a sponsor that's come to you or a partner that's like, hey, we want to sponsor something, and you're like, it's not the right fit?
That's hard because I don't know if we ever get to the money conversation. They're normally like done before we even get to that. Because that's the thing with us. Everyone asks, what's your rate sheet? Like, boy, everything is custom. Mm-hmm. We're so creative with it. Like, yeah, we can tell you what a 30-second ad would cost per show.
But that's not the most effective. I'd rather do an interview, tell your story, run the ad, hit up our newsletter, hit our website, put a couple of social media posts out. It's not just, I want to run 6 weeks ads.
So what do you think would be, maybe we'd have to think in terms of like,
the biggest thing is
the potential.
We don't get political on our podcast, and we turn down a lot of politicians during the run. And I bet if you'd have added those up, you probably would have had at least 6 figures, when you put those things together.
Sure. Is there a reason why you guys have tried to just stay Switzerland on that stuff? Is it just for more ad accessibility to other partners?
I don't feel like it would really scare off a bunch of ads. It's more of our audience has told us over and over again that they're thankful that we don't bring politics into it.
It might scare some. I know one of my favorite podcasts is Barn Talk, which is another ag one, and they get very political. And I know there's companies that will not touch them, will not work with them because of that. Now, I think they have a much bigger audience, and some of their other relationships are like that much more entrenched, like their listeners, because they kind of are like the Rush Limbaugh of ag, a little bit. But just because we don't do it on Farm4Profit doesn't mean we won't start a ag policy type show at some point.
Sure,
right? Because politics are very important in agriculture. To be profitable on the farm, we just didn't think it needed to. We don't need to talk about subsidies and what the farm bill is all the time.
Right. We'll still bring in and do a key episode. We did an episode on crop insurance, and that's federally subsidized. I mean, there's types of things where we will talk about what needs to be talked about, but we don't need to have a presidential debate or a legislative session that really dives into those things. There's other podcasts that do that.
Now, I will say it won't be a certain amount. But we're probably turning down a lot of companies now that we give them maybe 3, like a silver or a bronze, silver, and gold package. And at first they wanted the Cadillac, right?
They always ask
for that. And they're, sticker shock.
What the Cadillac is.
And then they end up picking like a really low tier and negotiating down for something, but then they want the Cadillac service. And it's just, and then they want stuff edited and all that. And it's like, they're going away, right? Because that takes a lot of time, a lot of back end stuff. It's very nitpicky. They're the ones that when you get a text message or an email or a call from them, you go, like I don't want. But
you can see the display on your Apple Watch. You can read the first 10 words of it, and then you're like, I'm not opening the rest of that.
But I mean, those are few and far in between. But we had over 100 chain email for a 1 ad deal. I mean, if you added up the amount of time spent reading all of that for edits and all that, was not worth it. And at that point, we're like, no, we're not doing that.
Sure. You got to sell bundles or make it worth it, or a certain level of engagement, that type of thing.
It's not because we're trying to be dicks or anything like that, but it's like, my God, like, how do you have this team to sit here and just nitpick like that? And that's not authentic, right? Just let it go.
Sure. Well, and even I had a client we worked with. I was just emailing him this morning. Not dream client, but like something that was really fired us up to work on. And we were like, heck yeah, let's do this project. And we knew they were kind of that, like, they were kind of overkicking their coverage. Like we renegotiated like 3 or 4 different times on different packages, whatever. And then we were like, okay, if you want us to like send you the raw files, it's this amount for the drive and the time to ship it and whatever. So then like, okay, well, we don't want to pay for that, whatever. And then like today they're like, hey, can you like send us all the raw, like just for free? And I'm like, no, like we already talked about this like 3 times. Like we're not just going to give you all the files. Not to mention we shoot it in this like log it's like gray Eeyore looking color profile because it lets us color grade and whatever. And I'm like, you look at these clips and be like, who the hell shot this? This looks terrible. But like you just don't know what you're looking at. So it's a lot of that stuff where you just work with people that are inexperienced, but then you might work with people like an A-list or a blue chip sponsor they don't even have a revision. They're like, here, the money's wired. Like, thanks. Like, it's such a different experience working with those different people.
I will say that, we've mentioned John Deere as a difficult one for us to get in. That's that A-list type partner that is once they understand your platform, your posting style, and they're comfortable with it, is relatively hands off.
Sure.
Now, we purposely do things to not, breach what their expectations are. But ultimately, yeah, those are the best partners.
Sure. You mentioned Barn Talk. Have you guys been on Barn Talk as guests?
No.
They're in my neighborhood, Southeast Iowa, right?
Yeah. We had them both coming on 2 years ago at Farm Progress Show, and Sawyer got sick, and so Torque came, which Torque and I crossed in the pig industry before we ever thought about podcasts, and so Torque has been on our show, and then I've sat on some panels with Torque as well. But yeah, we need to collaborate. Hopefully this summer. Hopefully before the show comes out.
Sure. Well, you got to get your new TikTok going. You got to do some collaboration posts.
Yeah.
This one goes to both of you. Whoever can guess it first. You mentioned trying to stay.
1929.
Good guess. What's the average price per acre in Iowa for farmland right now?
13,000.
$13,800.
I don't know. You got to throw Southern Iowa in there. I bet it's in the upper 12s.
I thought I saw Dave's post was like 13,780.
He's always fluffing it up.
You got the answer?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
You guys locked in are we doing prices right?
What'd you say?
We have to know 3 months from now what the average price is.
So what did you say your guess was?
I'll go 12,800.
I was 13,800.
Okay, and that's 12,800.
12,800.
Okay.
Yeah.
Average actual retail price, $11,467.
Both busted. Should have went $1, Bob.
There you go.
I wonder did you pull that from Dave's website? Was that from a month ago?
I Googled it this morning.
Okay. I was going to say we've ticked up a little bit, but that's probably throwing in a lot of recreational ground as well. Typically when we think it's all tillable.
Look at him trying to justify his answer.
Well, I'm just saying.
He knows. You guys know a lot more about this than I do. So
we watched Dave's last week that he sold 635 acres, and it averaged the farmland, the tillable averaged just over 15. But then he had this last parcel that was 20 some acres that was pasture and sold for 7,500 or 8,000. So that's the difference.
Well, and it's nuts that this goes for 11,000 for an acre, but if you buy an acre in town, 75,000 for that land. It's just like,
well, yeah, you're
different
uses
uses.
a quarter acre or half acre lot, and it's for 50 or 75,000.
Right.
So you're buying it for 200,000 an acre.
Man, he posts too many times. I can't even
Now
go back
there's
to
a
that
lot
graphic.
they do a lot more, engineering and sewer and stuff to get that ready. So there is cost there.
Sure.
It is crazy the development acres. I mean, especially for like these data centers. We heard in Indianapolis, 250,000 an acre.
Yeah, that was wild.
what?
For over 200 acres.
I was going to
at
say,
one
that's
time.
like a warehouse size big.
Now get the power to supply it, and the fiber to supply it, and the sewer to take away all the water. It's crazy.
Sure. I can only imagine.
Yeah. Yep.
We have an actual number. You're probably really curious now. Tanner is looking.
Yeah, I'm not finding it. Dave's let me down.
Okay.
I'll only look for
gotta
a
get on
couple more
Dave's-
seconds.
Dave's back here. I'll throw this one to Cory while you're doing that. Can you name 6 crops that grow in Iowa?
Oh, well, corn, soybeans, alfalfa, rye would be a relatively new one for cover crops, oats.
Let's do one more.
I know some people grow potatoes
Okay.
and pumpkins.
The only thing I didn't hear, wheat? Do you say wheat? Winter wheat?
We don't really
Does that grow here?
Yeah, it does, but we don't really grow wheat in Iowa.
Okay.
I mean, some people probably do as a cover crop, but yeah. Our climate isn't
found the
that
graphic.
great. Our climate isn't that great for it.
Okay.
I found the graphic that I saw, and it was bad on me that he broke it out into low, medium, and high tier. And I just remembered seeing the 13,744
It's a good recall, though. How long ago did he post this?
about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, that's pretty good recall. I don't know if I could have done that. That's good.
Yep.
No, that's not true. February. It's only 2 weeks. February 12th.
Yep.
Now we're going to go into the hot debate stuff. Favorite top 3 artists of all time, any genre for music?
Ooh.
God, I'm not any good at this.
Tanner's like, I don't listen to music.
Keith,
I don't.
Toby Keith.
Okay.
I'll get burned for this, but man, I loved Garth Brooks growing up. Like that was my first concert.
I was going to
went
say Garth, and I'm almost just going with almost the concert experiences that I've been to.
If we're going that, I'd say Eric Church.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up listening to a lot of Chris Ledoux, a lot of the Eagles and Phil Collins. It is just that type of childhood of well-rounded Boston. So I would probably say the Eagles, Garth Brooks, and then lately I've been on a Hardy kick.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
We saw Hardy last year at Commodity Classic in Houston, and that kind of made us fans.
Sure. Yeah. But I think the concert experiences always make you way more into it.
Yeah. It does.
Because I've gone to some headliners that were lackluster, but their openers crushed it. And I became like a new fan of theirs. Like I'm a huge pop punk fan, so we went to Woolies downtown, and State Champs is one of my favorite bands. And their opener was called Against the Current, which is like a female-led alternative rock band. They're kind of like Paramore, if you guys are familiar with Paramore. Yeah. And we were walking in, and I just hear this chick just ripping it up there. I'm like, who is playing up there? Like, I just went to I'm like, this band is awesome. I've never heard of them before. Like, became a new fan of them, other stuff. I just like that. I feel like when you go to a concert, you just feel that a little bit more. That's great.
I remember seeing Chris Stapleton down at Wells Fargo in Des Moines, and it was a last minute deal. I didn't buy tickets. Someone's like, hey, come with me. And I went, and he just had 3 people on stage. That's it. Whole stadium. And it was just, the musical talent was just amazing.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I always love watching old videos of Chris before he had a makeover, and he's got like his goofy nerd glasses and a buzz cut, and he's just like, you hear him sing, you're like, oh, that's Chris Stapleton, but like no beard and long mane of hair and a cowboy hat on. So
who would you want to see in concert if you go see anybody?
Oh, I would probably, it sounds really stupid, but Nickelback. They're on a new one right now, and they're having riding this wave of new popularity back, and a lot of my childhood in the early 2000s was listening to Nickelback. So I would say they're on tour with Creed right now.
I would say Creed would be another one if you're going that route.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. So I would say those would be in concert, definitely. And then, man, I don't know. Those would probably be the main ones. My wife's a huge concert goer. I've taken her, she's on like Carrie Underwood. She's seen Taylor Swift before.
She puts on a production.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Did she see Taylor Swift in Omaha when she opened for Brad Paisley?
She saw her in Minneapolis last year, and she was on the pre-order list. She's been on this list for like 8 years or whatever it was.
So that would have been the Eras tour?
Eras tour, yeah. Mm-hmm. So her tickets were $250 a piece, and they were reselling on StubHub for like $10,000 or whatever.
Oh my God.
Someone's like, yeah, I sold my pancreas for this, or I sold my car, and she's like, I got it for the normal price because I was on the wait list for the last like 3 years or whatever. So yeah, she's been a fan for years, but she loves the concerts, and we've gone to a couple different ones. Went downtown within the country genre. Spencer Crandall, have you guys heard of him? He was the headliner in Woolies as well, and they had a guy that opened that wrote a bunch of songs for like Luke Bryan and Eric Church and some other guys, but he was starting his own like indie tour. So
that's probably more my vibe. Is I would like to just go see the no names that like go start breakfast on Broadway in Nashville.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Broadway?
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
I have not.
I have twice, and I've never been to Vegas, but I've been to Nashville, and I literally go, I don't know why I need to go to Vegas after this, because I don't.
Vegas, baby.
Yeah. This is cool.
That's cool.
Went to the Grand Ole Opry. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've done Nashville, and I've been to the actual Broadway, but then also the like sit-in sessions. Those are so cool to just hear like a really good artist while you're having dinner. Like some people listen to jazz piano or something, and it's just like a country artist just ripping it up there. And this guy had a little Venmo thing. It said, if you Venmo me $20 and with your song request, I'll play whatever you want. So I requested a Chris Stapleton song. It was White Horse or something. And he goes, you could tell he has had that sign up for like a year and no one's ever paid him anything. And he's like, we got a request from Ryan in the corner. And I'm like, hey, it's like, sing the song. So he did. It was fun.
That's awesome. A weird thing that I would like to do at some point, and I don't think I would enjoy it, but I'd love to go see the opera.
Oh, nice.
In New York, or, something like that. Just be weird. Just something odd.
Sure. There you go.
Really?
Oh, sorry. It's this one. There you go. Thank you.
But you waited that. How long did you have that in your pocket?
I actually told my wife that. Like, I just want to. It's more for the culture.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I will actually, when I'm zoning out, I'll put classical music on because I can't have words because my mind will just fixate on words or trying to learn the words if I don't know them. So if I'm like counting pigs or I'm trying to do taxes or something, I have a list on Spotify called Classical Bangers.
There you go. Little Mozart.
It is.
Bach.
But then once in a while, an opera, and I'm like, you just listen to them singing, like, That's crazy.
Sure.
That's crazy what they do.
And they're supposed to be telling a story.
Yeah, and I have no idea what they're saying.
Here it's in Italian. You're like, I don't speak Italian. I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We went to it's called The Prom. It's like a Broadway show in Minneapolis. It was like my wife's and I's baby moon. She was like 8 months pregnant, and we were in the middle seat, which was funny because she had to keep getting up like every hour to go pee.
Yeah.
But that was cool because I'm not super into Broadway, but like you learn to respect a lot of the stuff they do, and I was enamored with the crews. Like, they hit the last note, everyone claps, the curtain gets drawn, and it comes back out 5 seconds later, and the whole set's moved. I'm like, the amount of like production teams working and choreography to get it in and out and do the stuff. It's like that was cool to me. I thought that was fun. So cool. Well, we passed the gauntlet of lightning round questions. Woo! So I had a couple more for you guys, but
what were they?
One of them was I didn't write down the question, but it was, what's the average profit of a farm in Iowa?
Oh yeah,
that's tough.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't ask you. You guys had a pretty good run there. So
$0, Bob.
there you go.
According to Uncle Sam.
Sure. Well, according to all your listeners, get pissed if you guys do stuff like 1% profit margin. Thank you. Okay, so a big question, I think, if people are this far in the interview and they're curious, knowing what you guys know now, would you encourage someone to start a podcast in 2025?
Definitely. I would.
We do all the time.
Yeah, we try. Because one of the biggest things that is kind of a pet peeve of mine is someone's like, hey, did you see that new ag podcast? Get new competitors in the game. It's like, oh boy, you don't understand. Like, sure, yeah, maybe on the surface they're competitors. Not really. You could listen to the top 10 ag podcast on Monday morning and you'd be through all of them, right? Farmers have so much time alone.
We get asked. We got guys that milk cows, and they say, you guys have got to start making longer shows. I mean, our shows are an hour long. They're like, wow, it takes 4 hours to milk cows.
And I think we're the only ones doing multiples, besides unless they have like a daily, right? Like a XM radio show or something like. So 2 a week is a lot.
Well, and you said it's farmers in the cab, or they're
trucking,
they're underneath the tractor working on
chores,
something.
Got the radio on in the shop.
Yep.
Driving. Wherever. Like they're sitting in the office. I know people will snap me. They're doing office work and they got us on in the background.
Yep.
So there's just agriculture's lonely in a lot of jobs in ag. So salespeople for companies, a lot of time on the road.
A lot of jobs are repetitive. Like you said, that guy that posts his going to HR job on TikTok. Farmers, it changes seasonally, but you do a lot of the same thing for a lot of hours every season.
Yep. Yeah, especially fall season. It's like if they're in the cab and it's like, I'm just here by myself, like you might as well feel like you're in the cab with them, listening. Yeah. So
in the realm, when you're younger, you probably listen to a lot of music, and I did. And I worked for an ag company before I came back to the farm, and I spent a lot of time on the road. And then I went to AM radio, and I listened to the stuffy legacy ag media. I love that. And then there would be political shows on before or after that, but you might as well have your brain thinking and working and learning, even if it's not your topic, right? Instead of hearing the same song for the fourth time of the day.
Well, that's how I am with like reading. Like I used to read before we had kids. I'd get up early and like walk the dog for 45 minutes, read my book, a business book for 45 minutes. I do all this now. I don't have any of that time.
You're one
like
of those guys.
I was.
And now you understand.
Then I had 2 kids and I'm like, no time. So now the only time I can read is when I travel for work. So it's like I'll take a business book and read the whole time. And then I'm like taking notes like feverishly of like, oh my gosh, I have all these ideas and stuff. And it's an interesting thing because when you don't get a chance to, then you're like glued in. It's like if you haven't seen a movie for a year and you finally go to the movies and you're like, I haven't done this for a year. It's like you're way more glued in than if you did it every day. Like you said, listen to music. You're not even listening to the music. It's just on,
Yeah.
So
have you started listening to books on tape?
I have like 3 books. One of them was I have a library card and they have any book in the library, you get it on audio tape. So I did a lot of that where it's like, oh, they don't have it. But then like to read it would take you 8 hours, but to listen to it, it's like 60. So I'll listen to it on double speed.
Some of us don't read. Some of us don't read very fast.
What do you listen to podcasts on?
What's that?
How fast do you listen to podcasts?
1.5. 1.5.
That's where I'm at.
Yep. Yeah. Same with YouTube videos. If I'm trying to get through it, I almost always listen to TikTok's double speed. I can process it quicker. I'm like, give it to me faster. Come on.
And if you can read it, if it's captions, then you're fine too.
Yeah.
So I have to review shows which I got one in my email for a fun show. And when I have to listen to Tanner at single speed, I'm just like, oh my gosh, say it.
Yeah, these are recorded separate channels, right?
They are. Yep.
You can speed me up.
I can if you want to. Yeah, we'll make you really you sound like a chipmunk. Like,
That's right. That's right.
but no, I think it's interesting how people digest media, and even with us putting the show on Spotify and video. When my show first came out, my wife had sent it out to her family chat, like, hey, check out Ryan's new podcast, whatever. And one of her cousins had texted me. He's like, dude, how'd you get this video? Like, I can watch the interview. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's awesome. I was like, that's so cool. I'm like, meeting people, I feel like where they're at, because I knew he's in the Air Force. I knew he was at his desk because he's watching on a desktop. I'm like, that's how you're watching it, because it's not on the phone.
Yep.
Right.
At least at that time, I think it is now with mobile. But I think meeting people where they're at is so critically important. What have you guys seen from thinking like marketers now? You were thinking like farmers of what they want to listen to, but then you got to think like production team on like how to capture it professionally. And now you got to think like, how do we get this message to the right people to deliver for our sponsors and our partners? How's it been for you guys, the marketing ahas for you that have taken that show to the next level?
Yeah. The ahas for me is really, we just go after partners that we know fits our audience. Like, we still do a survey of our audience. I don't know if that's just kind of been my thing. I always like to feel what people are doing. So surveyed when the conference happened. Now we survey every year when we put this podcast out. So that's why we went to video. People were in the survey, were asking if they could watch it. We were audio only to begin with. And then that was a transition into video side of it. And then even a transition into upgrading equipment when we got the new studio. So for us, it's kind of been an evolution of how do you meet them where they're at. It's listening to what they ask for. So now it's the text messages, the emails. We ask every episode in the beginning, you send us a text, 515-207-9640. Send us an email, farm4profit@gmail.com. And we get those. And we kind of follow that. And then we just pick partners that we know are going to fit the audience that we have. We're not trying to stretch somebody. We're not trying to stretch a women's clothing line into our 92% male audience.
Right.
So for us, I don't worry necessarily about how is my social media content or how's my ad for this company going to work with my audience, or how do I deliver it to them in the medium that they're in. We just be authentic, and we don't try to make our audience something that it isn't. Is that accurate?
I think that's accurate. The survey we have out right now, what is the percentage of people that have purchased or inquired on with a partner?
It's almost 70% of somebody that has taken action, and over 30% of our audience has actually bought something from an ad on our podcast.
So that to me is very humbling, and it makes me, it's almost like we can't just partner with anybody. Like, so biological products or snake oils or are a big thing in ag right now. This biological thing is busted on the scene. The last 5 years, there's like over 300 products.
So relatively new, 5 years.
Yeah.
Not a lot of data.
And we could work with 10 at any given time. I mean, a lot of Silicon Valley money pushing this stuff, a lot of carbon, type stuff pushing. And we have to watch what we say, right? We have to really, people are buying and making decisions. So I try to say, is this going to help my farm? Is this a product that I want? Is this a product that I've used? And then I go, do I like these people? I hate working with, like I said earlier, the ones that stress you out, the ones when you go, this phone call comes and you go, I don't want to deal with that. But so that's just kind of how I vet it. And that's how, if it works for me and that's why I can't quit farming. Right? If it works for me on my farm and brings value and I like the people, hell, let's go with it.
Yeah.
And we'll do those cheaper.
We do. I mean, pretty much we've got a person inside every company, every partner that we have. And without those people, usually the partnership would suck.
It's all about relationships. That's what we said earlier.
Right.
So
you guys have learned a lot, obviously, through this process of like marketing the show and getting more eyeballs on it and everything like that. What advice do you have for people that are, like you said, you mentioned you would encourage people to start a show. What advice did you have for them to make sure that it actually blows up and that they don't just like sink their ship before it even gets off the ground?
Right.
I don't know if you can bank on it blowing up. Like you can't force something. And I think we tell people all the time that you, one, have to be authentic, because if we were acting in a role, we would have, at the beginning, we had no idea it was going to last 6 years. We had no idea it's going to continue after 6 years. You had no idea you're going to do 2 shows a week. And if you were an actor, a legitimate playing a personality, how hard would that be? So you got to be who you are. And if you don't think there's something interesting about you, there is. You just don't know what it is yet. Yeah. we all have our own quirks, and you kind of got to play into those. And then the other biggest thing that we say, just stealing it from Cory, is we tell you to be consistent. If you show up for them, they're going to show up for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of other better podcasters, better podcasts than us out in ag. There really is. And the ones that have come and gone, but they weren't consistent. You know, we were just the hardest working. And that's Tanner. I mean, I'm not a calendars guy, but man, I had 30 calendar invites last week from him. And even David was like, holy cow, what the heck is this? Well, it's for Commodity Classic. And then I'd also say, once you find something that does work, because inherently you're probably not going to, hit it out of the park first pitch. But once you do find what works for you, like step and repeat, like, do variations, but like there's a reason that worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's consistent across all levels. It's not just the fact that we're there every Monday and Thursday. But one of the biggest things I had editing my own audio is I don't like listening to podcasts where I got to turn the volume up or turn the volume down or have it too loud for one person because you can barely hear the next person. So that's one thing that we want is our listeners to have a consistent bass every time that they listen. Yeah. And then Cory has a high level of standards for what the visual content looks like and how we deliver our message. So our audience knows if you skip a show, you're not getting a different level of consistency.
That's why
it's all there.
I was like, we got to have Ryan. He's local. Let's just have him swing in and just give us some ideas. And because we probably own like 12 different cameras, that are from cheap to not as cheap, but still not expensive, not like these, and it's all just been what we could afford at the time. But then like we just didn't know how to set them. We didn't know how to lighting and all that. Like we didn't go to school for that.
Sure.
So. And that's why our studio is the way it is. The mics are pretty much in the same position. The lights are in the same position. The cameras, as you saw, were mounted from the ceiling that they really can't go any other spot than where they're at. So it's consistency.
Sure. Well, I commend you guys for what you've done with that not being your thing. And like, we got to get educated on this because, again, it's like the better product we can put out, the better experience, the better sponsors we're going to get, the more people are going to stay. Like, knowing that all roads lead to, if it's a professionally done show, you'll get more eyeballs on it. So that's super cool. I guess one piece of advice you would give your younger self, this show started, 2019 was the year?
Yeah. So
you're 6 years in. Do you think you guys would, if you went back in the DeLorean and told yourself, hey, you're going to be podcasting full time, or like, hey, you're going to be like, you could podcast full time if you wanted to, but you're going to farm a little bit. Like, do you guys think you would even take yourself seriously if you went back in a time machine?
I think we'd take ourselves seriously, but the piece of advice would be when Tanner and I started talking in 2016 or 17 about doing a podcast, as I'm listening to Pat McAfee when he first started, and even other like Wheeler Walker Jr., like the comedian, frickin' country singer guy. Like, yeah. If I would have just acted on it, I would go back and say, just do it. Just start, right? Because if we could have started 3 years sooner, 2 years sooner, we would have been ahead of all of this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything we've done, we say the same thing. I wish we'd have gone to video sooner.
We moved too slow. We're very conservative, and we've tried to.
And we're still one of the fastest moving. Like, that's the wildest part of this is, we would have jumped on YouTube sooner. We'd have started a TikTok sooner.
Yeah, we ran this.
We'd have probably gotten banned on TikTok sooner.
We ran this from our personal social media accounts for at least a year or two before we actually made. I mean, we had a Farm4Profit Facebook.
Page.
Yeah.
Everything else was our own Twitter, our own Instagram, our own TikTok. Yeah.
Do you guys publish full episodes on your Facebook page too?
Not on Facebook.
Okay. Mm-hmm. As you guys are growing, that might be something too. They pay for views as well, like YouTube, so that might be something.
Yeah, mainly we just link to YouTube. But
that's wild. The income that we make off of platforms is extremely minuscule compared to what our partnerships and those types of relationships provide.
Sure. No, it's super cool. And I think there's just so much to learn about your guys' story and the journey, and knowing that you guys, like, this wasn't a thing 10 years ago. Like, being a full-time podcaster, like, people just don't realize.
We also know it can go away.
Yeah, it could be the next big thing. It could be virtual reality, something or whatever. Who knows?
And who wants to see our full bodies?
in a mankini.
There you go. Apparently not TikTok, because they didn't like that very much.
That was good.
He found what your buttons did.
Yep.
While you were out, I was pushing buttons.
Oh, were you? Okay. There you go. He's like, I gotta know. It's burning a hole in my brain.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this has been a super fun episode, and hopefully you've inspired the next generation of people to start whatever that creative thing is for them.
The coolest part about having a podcast is it literally gives you the excuse to ask anybody for a conversation. Mm-hmm. And if they tell you no, okay. If they ask you why, it's because I got a podcast.
Sure. I can attest to it. I mean, even with my show, like there'd be people I would reach out to that would never give me the time of day, and then, hey, come on my podcast, and then they see it's like, oh, okay. It's like get an audience with some of these people that there's no way I would ever convince someone to do it, and you just never know like where those connections could go, or professionally or personally or whatever. And there's always benefits of just sitting down and having a conversation. So really, really appreciate you guys making the trek here from Slater.
It was a 20-minute drive.
Sure.
I appreciate your persistence because you've asked us a couple of times.
Sure. Well, you guys are busy. You're at the time you guys were both working 2 jobs. Now just one of you is working 2 jobs.
It is odd that dynamic of telling people no all the time. I used to not be able to do that very well, and I've gotten better because of just it's on my calendar. I can't. Sorry, man.
Sure. Yeah, you got to get more selective about it. So I'm great. We get you guys in here, and we'll get you all the clips so you guys can get that TikTok back up to 15,000 to 20,000 followers. So, but yeah, if you guys have made it this far in the show, you guys know what to do. Give a subscribe if you're on YouTube or Spotify. Check us out on social media if you haven't already. And we'll also put links to Farm4Profit and all their good stuff they're doing in the description box. Make sure to check them out. If you're not already subscribed to their show, make sure to do that as well. But until next time, my name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and I'm out. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.